today we have Renae Fieck with us, and she's going to talk about cycles in a different way than we're used to thinking of them. But I love that because one of the things, among everything else that happens, and why I choose to work with women over 40, is because that's when perimenopause starts, and they start through that, and that veil lifts, and the clarity is right there for them to reimagine a future that they wouldn't have had, didn't have time to even entertain 10
Yeah.
years prior, right?
Yeah.
And so your work I found fascinating. Tell me how you
Yeah.
arrived there and explain it to us, the cycle.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for having me. It is an honor to be here. My story, if you had met me 20 years ago, 15 years ago, even probably 10 years ago, and told me that today I would be talking about menstrual cycles and women and our cycles, I would have never believed it. Like it was not on my radar whatsoever. But I was an occupational therapist working, I had got my dream job working at the hospital and found out I was pregnant with my third baby. And then also found out that my husband had a brain tumor,
Oh my.
all in the same sort of whirlwind at the same time. And really came face to face with the fact that we don't live forever and we are never guaranteed tomorrow. I think at that point in my life, I was young, I was probably early 30s, like maybe late 20s, and had this feeling of my entire life is ahead of me. And so I can focus on just working my ass off at the point in time, knowing that someday I'm going to have the dream life that I want. And it was that moment of realizing the dream life doesn't come in the future. The dream life is now. And am I living now how I would love, like if I didn't wake up tomorrow, would today feel like I satisfied? And I wasn't. I was very much just hustle and grinding in so many different ways. And I wanted to be home with my kids. Like that at the point in time was like one of my dream goals at the time. So I started an online business and very quickly traded all of my free time for building a business. I actually traded the things I really was looking for was more freedom, more time, more, it being with my family, and was now asking my husband to put them to bed so that I could stay up late working on my business. And I was skipping, the fun things to be able to work on business. And then they came to that same conclusion of like, oh my gosh, I'm trading all of these things that I'm building and creating and desiring for the one day, someday in the future. And in that process, really started digging into like time management hacks and neuro stuff. Like I come from the medical space. And so I was very much looking at like neurophysiology, like how do we really reprogram the way we think? How do we reprogram the way we work and like our habits and things? And discovered how men and women are just so different, and that most of us have never really been taught it, how our menstrual cycles and our hormones, they directly impact the way our brain functions and the way we show up every single day. And it changed the game for me in so many ways, like how much more I was able to get done, how I was giving myself feeling less guilty. I was giving myself more permission to kind of do it in the way that felt good for me. And once I started sharing that with my clients at the time, they were like, this is what we need to know. Like, more women need to know about this. And that was just kind of the gateway of really starting to look at the neurophysiology, the endocrinology, like the hormones, like how we function on a physiological level. And then it expand out into more of this like spiritual dimension too, of how men and women just are so different, and how when we tap into that and like these cycles and these rhythms, like it changes the way we show up in so many ways.
I am
Yeah.
fascinated. I am
Yeah.
fascinated. My observation and my experience in a woman's body is that every 3 weeks I had a every 21-day cycle, no matter what.
Yeah.
And I would get hit with about every 3 weeks, the veil would lift and I would look at the shit show that was my life
Mm-hmm.
and lose my mind. And
Mm-hmm.
then those hormones would kick in, those baby making hormones, and it'd go back down, and I'd be calm, cool, and collected for another,
Yeah.
2.5 weeks. And they called it PMS, and we all had different
Mm-hmm.
definitions of what that really meant.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I hit midlife and perimenopause that that veil would lift for longer and longer periods of time. And
Mm-hmm.
that's when I could be an entrepreneur. That's when I could,
Mm-hmm.
that creativity that was no longer raising children or birthing children
Mm-hmm.
was looking for a home. But when
Mm-hmm.
menopause happened and that veil lifted and stayed lifted, game
Yeah.
changer.
Yeah.
40 is the messy middle, and 50, it's magic.
Well,
Magic.
I'm 40, so I guess I'm just getting started in the messy middle.
But you got a
But
head start, so
yeah.
share it. Tell us about
Yeah.
those hormonal shifts.
Well, so I mean, the hormone shifts like that happen for a woman, like as you're moving throughout the cycle. I mean, a lot of us, it was stuff we never learned, right? Like we don't know. But estrogen is our dominant hormone in that front half of the month, and then estrogen or progesterone is this one in the second half of the month. And like you said, they feel so different. They feel 100% different. Estrogen tends to have this lots of new ideas, lots of creative juices. Like we want to go, we feel really confident. Once we hit ovulation, we feel like we're glowing, we're on top of the world, we can do anything. It's the time most of us that are like really high achieving really love that time because it feels so good, right? We can check off the to-do list. We put ourselves out there, we speak up, we say the things we really want to say, and we ask for the raise at work. Like we do all of those things. And then once progesterone kicks in, progesterone's like, wait a minute. We don't want to feel like that anymore. And what did I just do? And why did I do that? And do I need to burn it all down? It's oftentimes like characterized. My husband probably knows very easily what phases of the month I'm in. When I come to him and I'm like, dude, I am so overwhelmed. Like I'm overwhelmed with kids. I'm overwhelmed with work. I'm overwhelmed with the house. Like I can't do any of it. I can't do all of it. Like I just can't do it. Like that's very much characterized by that phase when we get into that moment. And then we kind of, like you said, go through the cycle of back into our menstrual phase, and it kind of purges everything out. We start fresh again and we feel good. And that cycle that we feel of really confident, I'm committed to my goals, I'm on it. And then these other moments of not feeling it, not feeling like we want to go out and talk to anybody, and we want to stay tucked into our couch and in our bedroom. Like it's all very normal. Like it's very normal. And I think most of us have been taught in our society that it's just something that's wrong with us. There's a lot of messages around consistency, around discipline, around, pushing past your excuses, going after your big goals, doing the things nobody else is willing to do. All of these messages that we've really been taught, that when we lean and we feel these things of our menstrual cycles, it tells us that we're not doing it right, that there's something wrong with us. And so we are at constant war with ourselves instead of really truly embracing it. And I think each one of those different phases has so much magic and so much like a superpower to offer us, and helps create this balance. And it exists like when you like looking at, you talked about like the transition as we age. I think these rhythms exist in so many different layers throughout our life, right? So in the menstrual phase, or like when we're menstruating, it's in this monthly rhythm, but it's also in a yearly rhythm, right? The earth has spring, summer, winter, fall. It's the same energies that happen in the month. But also, I was on a podcast recently and somebody asked a question. I can't remember. I was like, wow, it's actually in our lifespans as well, right? We have this time of our lives when, we're not menstruating, we're just being kids, we're like tapped into our intuition and our creativity. And then we move into this season of our life when we're child raising and bearing children, or menstruating, or, very fertile, or whatever we are. And then we move into this, like you said, the messy middle of that luteal phase, when we feel like things are falling apart and the world is ending. And then we move back into that creative, like intuitive part of us again. And it's like we have that same rhythm that exists throughout the whole cycle of our lives as well. And I think for me, the menstrual cycle was just that beginning tap in of realizing, wow, Mother Nature, the world, like so much of us, like we operate in this rhythm and this cycle that most of our society doesn't teach us. Like most of our society is all about produce and go and just do and do and do and do and do, that it cuts off from that like innate part of us that feels so much more balanced and so much more at ease when we embrace the season that we're in.
And hustle culture. So
Yes.
you have, because you've taken those and applied them to business, and I apply them to women who are transitioning and creating something
Yeah.
new. But that hustle culture that
Mm-hmm.
overlays all of that helps
Yes.
us feel bad, helps us feel less than, helps us feel diminished, keeps us from being validated or valued as much in the workplace.
Mm-hmm.
And so it is why we leave to go home with the children, because we don't
Mm-hmm.
have the same opportunity. We don't have the
Mm-hmm.
same opportunity in the
Mm-hmm.
workplace. That's just the reality
Yeah.
because we are handicapped by mood swings.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. One of the things like I've really embraced, like the luteal phase, like that progesterone dominant phase was actually like you said, it's one of the phase, like it's moody, we get irritable, we're frustrated, we're overwhelmed. It's actually tapped into, it's become my favorite time of the month. And for many of my clients, it also becomes the favorite, very favorite, blah, blah, blah. Because what, like you said, our society doesn't really tap into like those emotions. Like we're kind of taught to keep them at bay and keep moving on. I'm chances are it's kind of the same work that you do as with me. I know if my people are going to raise up to that next level, if they're going to tap into new ideas, if they're going to tap into, like, we got to work on some of the limiting beliefs, the fears, the doubts, like those things that are keeping them where they are. And that luteal phase is the prime time for those things to rise to the surface. Like it
Well,
is so apparent what those things are in that phase. And so it becomes your most expansive phase. Like when you actually know what to do with each of the different phases, like that luteal phase, instead of it being your emotional, like triggered, like you're just off your rocker, like moody week that you're just trying to survive, it actually becomes your gateway. Like it is your gateway to your next expansion. It's your gateway to your next level. And I think it's just flipping the script on how we look at all of those different, whether it's your menstrual cycle or whether it's a season of life, like transitioning, whether it's whatever, we've got to start flipping the script on those moments in our lives and seeing the beauty and the gift that they're giving us in each of those different spaces.
Well, and if emotions are energy in motion, that
Mm-hmm.
luteal phase, that anger, that sacred rage,
Yeah.
that is your action energy.
Yes.
That is what creates change. We don't create change out of depression. We're all focused inward.
Mm-hmm.
But when that anger rises and we feel it and see it with clarity,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely,
Mm-hmm.
that's your momentum. I see
Yeah.
that. So
Yeah.
so your limiting beliefs. So you have to
Yeah.
get women over the be a good girl and, never let them
Mm.
sweet you sweat and all that.
Yeah.
So you have to get them through that. But then how do they learn to ride those waves
Mm.
in their business?
Yeah, I think it's one, just understand, like I said, understanding the power behind them and understanding what they're here for.
Okay.
So, for a lot of, like, I know when I'm out of a sync and I'm out of balance with actually like leaning into my rhythm is when those emotions get the strongest, they get the heaviest. Normally, for me now that I've been doing this for so long, is like I can move through that luteal phase and kind of feel a little bit of the trigger or feel a little bit of numbing the belief. But I've know now that instead of really like sticking my heels in and leaning into it in that way or fighting it, is now I get really curious about it. So my favorite thing is always asking like why. So
Mhm.
if I get really angry at my kids about something, I'm like, why did I freak out like that? Like what is underlying that, and what is maybe the reason that I really triggered so badly? And getting really curious about it transforms that really intense time into those sweet learning moments. It turns it into something that creates movement. Like you said, it's creating the change, it's creating the ripple. It allows those emotions, like emotions don't exist in our bodies for longer than 90 seconds. It's the programming and the stories and the messages and the stuff that we tell ourselves about that emotion after the fact that keeps us staying in that emotion. So it's about getting really curious when that emotion comes up and then it dissipates. Like it doesn't stay harbored in as long. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
I got really triggered over that because I haven't been expressing myself and telling people I need help in this way. Okay, I can now actually now use that and move forward with that. So I think it's really, learning how to use the strengths of each of the different phases. Like that phase is really great for that. It's also really powerful for organization and details and cleansing and like nesting and like cleaning things out, putting things away, like organization, getting really clear on like what's serving you, what's no longer serving you, so that you move into that next phase, allowing yourself to actually take a rest and to be in your intuitiveness and all these different things. So it's like knowing how each of the different seasons, each of the different phases of our life, our cycles, all of that are contributing and tapping into those strengths instead of feeling like we have to produce and be on all of the time every single day. It's really just
Right.
not how we are.
Right. Or beating
Yeah.
yourself up for being
Yeah.
imperfect. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
For when I'm working with people in business, the
Mm-hmm.
trickiest part is getting them to push play before they're ready.
Mm-hmm.
Before it's
Yeah.
absolutely perfect and nobody can say anything bad about it because they're
Yeah.
waiting, waiting, waiting for the perfect moment. It's like childbirth. If we wait
Mm-hmm.
until everything's lined up, we're never going to have a
Mm-hmm.
baby.
Mm-hmm.
It's not
I'm
going to
like,
happen.
when are we ready? Are we
There is no
ready? Like,
perfect
is there
time.
ever ready? Yeah.
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 And birthing a business is not unlike that.
Yes.
So
Yes.
do you see these cycles in the business itself, in the
Oh,
rhythm of
yeah.
the business as well, based on
Totally. Like you
what does
think
it look
about
like?
it. Yeah. I mean, like I honestly like the themes of each of these different phases. I think they exist across everything. Like it literally, like when you start to really look at like our world, I mean, I come from like OT, right? So occupational therapy, we have like our practice act. And so when I was in grad school, one of our main things is rhythms and routines. And
Mhm,
at the time, I didn't totally understand it, but now like after working in neuro rehab and then the NICU and like working with the brain in a very physiological way, you
mhm,
see how much our bodies thrive when there's these rhythms and these like cycles that we go through. And it's so much easier, like somebody who's had a stroke or it's so much easier to help them relearn things when we do it in the same way that they've done it before. Like even if they cognitively can't comprehend it or can't function it, like the brain remembers. And so we look at these rhythms and we look at these cycles that exist just overarching in all of our, like it's in the politics, we see it in the way elections come through and different waves of this is a really Republican era and this is a really Democratic area, and then we go through waves of recession, and then we go through waves of really big highs. Like they're phenomena that exist in our world. And so in business we see the same thing. We see people coming in very excited, ready to take off and ready to go and ready to do the thing, and they put themselves out there and they launch their big business and they are excited about it and they're in that like prime phase. And then things, there's some work that kind of goes in the back end, and then maybe it doesn't go as well as we thought it would, and then we kind of hit this little bit of a lull, and then we're in this little bit of more of a reflection, like pull back, like questioning, like am I doing this, is this working right, is this not working? Maybe we have seasons of, I think that's another thing I've seen in the online business space, is there's a lot of emphasis on growth. It's
yeah,
upward growth all of the time. Like,
yeah,
but most of us have seasons of dip. Most of us do have years where we go backwards. Most of
mhm,
us do have months that aren't the greatest. Like
mhm,
that belief of growth and all of the time going forward is in that very masculine hustle culture type of mentality. It's
right,
when we look at it, and like if you talk, I like talk to other entrepreneurs, a majority of us do have years where our revenue slides. We do have months where our revenue falls back, or we do have where our growth falls back. It's a part of the process.
mhm,
Last year was I call it my dark ages. It's like my burn everything down type of year. I had a lot of things happen. I got diagnosed with melanoma. I
mhm,
had a lot of stuff happen in my family. I was questioning a lot in my business and like what I was really doing. And it tanked. Like I put a halt on a lot of things last year. And this year I'm kind of characterizing it as my rebirth year.
mhm,
Next year I'm already claiming it as my expansion year, right? We see these cycles and these things happen, and when we start to really expand back and look at it, you will see them. You will see the rhythm of like, wow, I had this really amazing year, and then I had a really tough year, and then I had a really like introspective year where I was growing and I learning, and then the next year I expanded and I really grew. And so we see those patterns happen in business too. And it's about honoring those seasons, like honoring the dormancy season of your business, honor
mhm,
the season of big new creation ideas, and then
mhm,
honor the season of, wow, this is really tough. Like I have to strip things back. Maybe I have to let people go. I have to figure out what's no longer serving me anymore. I have to do this. And then I kind of cycle that back through where we now can grow and expand again.
mhm.
And so, yes, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when women come to you, and
Hmm.
I always have to work with women from the inside out. They want
Yeah.
to fix this outside thing or this outside
Yeah.
person or something. And it's like, okay, well, let's start with you because, you
Hmm.
know, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. So we're going
Hmm.
to start there. When somebody
Yeah.
comes to you with business, do you meet them where they are and figure out their cycles and move and then show them how to allow that business to unfold? Or or is it more of a harness the power when you have the power? How do you approach
Great
that?
question. I think it kind of depends on the person. So
Okay.
I tend to have a lot of people that do come to me. They love the medical, scientific sort of background that I have related to the cycle. It doesn't feel like tapping into the menstrual cycle feels very woo woo. I think that for a long time that was majority of the space of people that were using their cycles where it was very spiritual, very in this woo woo space.
Yeah.
Maybe we're taking our menstrual blood and putting it as face masks and we're saving it and dumping it on the trees and things like that. And that for me, even personally, it was like a part of like I'm not sure I'm in that camp.
Yeah.
100% respect the people that are,
Yeah.
but it was just not mine. So I think I've attracted a lot of people that are in that very masculine hustle culture, productivity sort of space. And this is a little bit of a gateway out. Like it's their stepping stone out of that hustle. And then it becomes like, okay, now we can step into this a little bit deeper and we can start to see what are the true differences between that masculine and feminine and how are we really different and what are the strengths of the feminine and what are the strengths of the masculine and how do we work with both because they coexist together. We need them both, especially in business, but in all parts of our life. We need both of those two entities and like energies, but I think a lot of us have been so conditioned to operate majority of our time in the masculine. And so
Mhm.
it's about embracing some of the strengths and the tools and the skills of the feminine and like what does that really look like? And I find that it's like they come to me, they're looking for the strategy, they're looking for the systems, they're looking for the tools to really integrate their cycle, and then we go on this journey of really tapping into like wow, it has less to do with the strategy and the tools and systems, which I love, we get those too, but it's about how do we tap into who you are, like how do we tap into the desires that you have. Like most women haven't really allowed themselves to like fully express their desires. It's probably something you encounter with your people too, is this, we've been taught to keep our voices small. We've been taught to not ask for what we really want. We've been taught not to really engage in pleasure, right? Like even cultures around the world, like women are not allowed to experience pleasure, like, and all of these messages and things that we've had, but yet our pleasure, our fun, our playfulness, even when we think about our wombs, like our wombs are receivers, right? Like we receive so much. Like there's so much about the feminine that is in this playfulness, pleasure based center that most of us have been kind of taught to cut off from. And so it becomes this like, how do we tap back into like, what do you really want in life? Like, who are you? Like, what are you here to do? Because when we tap into that, when we tap into what a person's here to do and what they would almost like die on a hill talking about, like they're so passionate about, all the other stuff just becomes extra, like the systems and the tools and the things like, I was talking to a client, I'm like, if you tap into what you are here to made to do, it doesn't matter what anybody on the internet thinks about you, it doesn't matter what anybody says about you, it doesn't matter what your Uncle Joe thinks about you,
Mhm.
you're going to do it anyway because at your very core, this is your purpose. Like, this is the impact you're here to make in the world. Like, this is the legacy that you're here to do. And that's like the journey. I love taking people on that space. So it goes from this like very tactical, tangible, masculine like strategy. And then like, who are you? Like, what are you really here to do in the world? Yeah.
You know, I'm fascinated by your masculine and feminine
Yeah.
balance of that.
Yeah.
And when I came through corporate, it was suit up and show up. Never let
Mm-hmm.
them see you sweat, never let them
Mm-hmm.
see you cry. And you had to fit in to be, I was always the only woman in the C-suite.
Yeah.
And I toughened up until I was about 40. And then I met up with a woman who brought us back in touch with the feminine
Mm-hmm.
sovereign. And
Mm-hmm.
since then, I lead like a woman
Mm-hmm.
for what that means. But
Yeah.
some of that, when you were bringing the masculine in, it's like you had first, I had to tease apart the toxic masculinity
Yes.
from the
Yes.
divine masculine
Yes.
because there's
Yes.
toxic femininity and the divine
100%.
feminine as well.
Mm-hmm.
How do you
Mm-hmm.
how do you do that in your practice? Is it just does
Mm.
it flow from who you are?
I think it's always a learning lesson. Like I feel like I'm always in learning, right? Like I grew up so probably just like you, like so conditioned in that masculine and like and like you said, like the toxic masculine, like don't show emotion, just keep showing up, just keep doing. So it's still a constant learning. I find that I waffle sometimes. I'm like, whoa, I'm hustling a little too hard right now. Like this doesn't feel good.
I
And I
see
kind of
that.
have
Yeah.
to bring myself back. But there's two experiences, like ways I like really like to explain it. But like if we had a cup of water and I poured my water out on my table right here, right now, like kind of thinking like the flow, right? A lot of women talk about like the feminine flow. If I poured it out, it's going to go literally all over my desk. It's going to make a mess of everything. But if I created some barriers and some structure on that and I poured it, it's going to go further, farther, and more direct. It's going to make more powerful impact on wherever I'm trying to get it to go. And so that's the relationship that I really kind of talk about with the masculine and the feminine, is that the masculine provides the safety and the container, the structure, so that the feminine can do her job, like the flow can do her job.
Mhm.
When we look at even just physiologically, a woman's body functions, it requires safety.
Mhm.
So the whole fertility system, your whole digestive tract, your whole, like literally almost everything in your body functions better when you're in a place of safety. If your body says, oh my gosh, we're stressed out, we're overwhelmed, there's something that like we feel like there's a lion chasing us, even if it's not really an actual lion, then it shuts off fertility because our bodies say it's not safe to make a baby. Do not bring a baby into this world. And
Mhm.
so when we think about it from that perspective of like a woman's body requires safety in order to produce life, like legit to bring life into the world, it has to operate in a safety.
Mhm.
We see that same in the same sense of the masculine and the feminine in our businesses and life too, is that the masculine provides the safety so that the flow can do her job. I
Mhm.
was at a retreat almost a year ago, actually, and the woman that was facilitating the retreat was amazing. She was this beautiful healer, beautiful, like just spirit, like beautiful woman.
Mhm.
And she's facilitating this whole retreat experience. But I was watching this moment in the retreat when her husband, who was providing kind of this, I want to say he was this like outside protection. He wasn't actively facilitating anything in the retreat, but he was supporting her whenever she needed support. He was behind providing kind of, guidance and like yeah, helping in a
Mhm.
lot of different ways. And I watched this whole thing go down. I was like, wow, this is how the masculine and feminine are supposed to work together. The masculine provides this protection, this provider. He's the provider, right? Like he's the protector, the provider, the doer. He's seeing it from a different perspective so that the feminine can do the healing and can do the creativity and can create the life and do all the things. And regardless of gender, it's not a gender topic, but I see it as that same way, right? When you have structure inside your business, maybe it's automations, maybe it's funnels, maybe it's whatever. When you have that structure, it creates freedom for you to be able to
Mhm.
step in and to be really creative and to be really in your flow and to find the things that are really meant to make the impact in the world. But if you're a chaotic mess in the back end, it's
Mhm.
never going to create the impact. You're going to be constantly putting out fires and trying to create your things. It's looking at that in the same way
Oh
of
my
like,
gosh.
where do we bring in this structure within your containers so that you can do what you're known to do best and what you're here to do and how you're meant to impact and how you're meant to heal, and you can be in this flow, but you're going to be the most effective with it when you have that safety and the protection and the containers. So it's a beautiful conversation, and I love like going down that rabbit hole, but I see it as like both of them coexist and we need them in both, in all areas.
I'm fascinated. So I have a team
Yeah.
this year. I've been in entrepreneurship since 2010, but
Hmm.
I got a team this year. I have learned to
Yeah.
delegate. I have learned to ask for help. I have learned I can't do it all, and nobody does it like I do. I get that, and that's okay. But how many times in my history have I
Hmm.
tried to build a business, but I was not in a safe container around
Hmm.
me to
Yeah.
do that.
Yeah.
And so I bootstrapped it and I did everything myself and my
Mhm.
creativity would get stuck. This
Yes.
week, especially with this team, I finally figured out, so I'm the visionary and the architect and
Hmm.
I have the doers and the workers. I need an engineer. I need to fill this slot in the middle who takes my design and translates it into daily tasks. So they're not asking me what color brush should I use this time.
Yeah.
And that what you just said about the safe container
Mhm.
makes such sense for women entrepreneurs who are trying to work all day, put the kids to bed, make sure, have their husband time,
Yeah.
and then go work 3 hours, which is what I did in their
Yeah.
side hustle at
Mhm.
night,
Mhm.
uh, and wonder why they're not getting anywhere because the
Mhm.
structure they need in place, it's not available either inside their home by their provider protector
Mhm.
or
Mhm.
because they've built a team around them of support.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, it makes such a huge difference. Like when you start to look at like where in my life maybe am I not experiencing safety,
Yeah.
right? And just asking that question of like, is it within my body, right? I do a lot of body work, whether
Mm.
it's through breath work or through nervous system regulation, things like that. Because if the body doesn't feel safe, like it cuts off from our connection to our brains and like our womb, like that life center. Like there's so much that like physiologically we need safety. But I even know like if my house is a mess, if there's stuff everywhere,
Yep.
I can't. Like my brain cannot be creative. Like I just can't. Like it has to have some sense of order in order
Yeah.
for me to be able to focus in that way. And so it
Mm.
really is looking at it not as like a deficit, right? Like this is a physiological need that most women have of like we need to experience safety. So asking that question of like where am I maybe not feeling safe right now, whether it be to be able to voice what I want to say, is it that I don't feel safe enough to be seen, is it not that I feel safe enough in my house, do I not feel safe in a relationship, like where am I not feeling safe, and then asking that question of like why, like what is not
Mhm.
in place, whether it's sometimes it is as easy as delegating a structure, sometimes it's as easy as like an automation, sometimes it's like I have to hire the house cleaner like I
Yeah.
have to do this,
Yeah.
because tapping into that puts me back into a place of safety, and when I'm in a place of safety my creative juices turn on. I'm
Mhm.
in my power. I am allowed to do the thing that I know I'm meant to do versus just over taxing myself trying to run and do it all myself.
Mhm. And you have to give yourself permission to
Hmm.
need safety,
Yes.
to
Yes.
not have to armor up to protect yourself all
Hmm.
the time.
Yeah. I mean, I think permissioning, you know, like we talked about earlier about like when you tap into that impact, I know like deep down my deep core impact is helping women like not I don't give people permission, but helping them permission themselves. Like that is my deep, whether it's permission to live and dream your biggest dreams, whether it's permission to say I'm taking a break right now and I don't feel guilty about it, or if it's permission to whatever it is, like that permissioning is like that is what I'm meant to do here in the world, is like help women learn that they have the permission to do whatever they want to do and however they want to do it. But it starts with understanding like, wow, this is me, this is my body, this is what I need, this is what I desire, and this is how I create it.
Uh,
Yeah. Yeah.
so the 4 P's of therapeutic change are
Uh-huh.
permission, power, protection, and
Uh-huh.
practice.
Hey, I have almost all those
And
in there.
you just nailed it so beautifully. I just thought, oh my God. Yeah,
Yeah.
there you go.
Yeah.
And so it's not that we have a deficit that we need permission. It is
Hmm.
that we need to be seen.
Yeah.
We need to be seen. And sometimes, I invested in coaching and I have ever since 2010
Hmm.
because I decided I was worth it.
Yeah.
And that uh having yourself reflected in a third party's eyes who
Mhm.
see the
Mhm.
brilliance that you can't see because of the static in your life
Yes.
is
Yeah.
worth everything.
Yeah.
It is
I
worth
agree.
everything. And then once you get that safety, then your heart
Mhm.
opens up and the know like trust factor, and then you can receive the practical skills for how to how to
Mhm.
navigate shift and how to
Mhm.
let your business be an extension of your authentic self instead
Mhm.
of another mask that you put on to
Mhm.
fit in.
Totally.
Makes sense.
Totally. Yeah. I
Yeah.
have a mentor of mine who I was like, I love when I'm in her energy. Like she makes me feel like anything's possible, right? Like she makes me feel like, wow, my dreams are are actually tangibly possible. Like she just has this era and aura about her. And I was sitting with her one day and she was like, I legit look at every single person that comes into my world as if they are a millionaire and have endless possibilities. And I was like, I feel that. Like, I feel that when I'm in her energy. And so it's become one of those things, like you said, I hold that for my people now. I'm like, I hold this energy of you have endless possibilities and anything you are capable of absolutely anything. And I know right now, maybe you don't see it, but I'm going to hold that energy for you until you see it. And
Oh,
I think that's one of the most powerful things that a coach offers us. Like when they can hold that for you before you can see it for yourself, it changes everything. Yeah.
so Renee, is this who
Yeah.
you were born to be? Is this always who you've been, or did those things that
Mhm.
happened in your life turn that switch on or change something for you?
I definitely think that this has been a growth for me. Like, this is not who I always was. I think actually it probably was
Uh-huh.
way back when you're a child, but I don't remember those parts of my time. I remember from a very early on age having to fight. Like I had a decent childhood, but there was some really rough, tumultuous times.
Mhm.
And I had to fight and I had to take care of myself, right? Like I had to bootstrap myself through and be my own protector. And so I think I've held that mask of I'm my own protector for a very long time, and it's only been in the last decade since
Mhm.
becoming a mother, becoming an entrepreneur, when we start, like you said, shedding those masks that we're
Mhm.
carrying and that we're holding on to, that I think it's allowed me to really discover. And I think also, like you probably see this too, like I think turning 40, there was something
Yes.
that happened magically when I turned 40 that I was like, I really don't give an F what anybody else thinks. Like,
Uh-huh.
this is what I want. This is how I want it. Like, my husband, we were going somewhere. There was an invite to go out to dinner or something.
Mhm.
And I said, I really don't want to go. And he
Mhm.
said, but I think we should. Like, I really think we should. And I said, I understand you think we should, but I don't want to. Like, I do not want to do it. And it was this wrestle back and forth where I realized I was like, wow, the old part of me would have definitely prescribed to, like, yeah, I probably should. It's like I get all the reasons why we should. So okay, let's do it. But now it's like, this is what I want, and I'm okay saying this is what I want. And I'm unashamed about that. And I think there's parts of me that probably still are, and then there's still parts of me that are coming out and like stepping into, but I think it's just removing all of those masks that I mean, you would probably know more than me, but I feel like as we hit 40 and 50 and we start to realize, like, wow, why was I wearing all these masks? Like, I have a teenager now and I look at her and I'm like, dude, girl, you are beautiful. You don't need all this. Like, why are you catering yourself to fit in with your friends? And then you think back and you're like, oh, I was there too. I did that. So I think, and like I said, you probably would know more, but I think that we enter into this decade and this era of stripping and releasing what no longer serves us and what we no longer need, and really stepping into who we really are.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's deconstructing those old stories.
Yes.
You know,
Definitely.
the thing that helped me do that was to say every time I'd get hit with a limiting belief, who said?
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
who said? Whose
Yeah.
voice is running in there?
Yes.
And
I
once
I
I could identify it, I could release it.
100%. I said that to my husband the other day. My daughter came out, and she's 14. She comes out in this tube top, and
Yeah.
he's like, "You can't go out in that." And she's like, "Why?" And I said, "Yeah, why? Who
Yeah.
said? Who said that that's inappropriate? Like, who who
made the
determined,
rules?
who made that the rule? And I
Yeah.
think that's the question I ask all the time now. That's really been part of the deconstructing and looking at like, wow, where is the control coming from? And like, who's controlling? And like, where's the thought coming from? But just asking that question of like, why do I actually believe this? Or why do I think that this is appropriate? Like, she wanted to get her belly button pierced. And he's like, you're not old enough. And I was like, well, who determines old enough? Like, where does that come from? Like, not to say that I'm going to just go let her do it, but can we
Right.
have those questions of, is this really something that I agree with and something I want to believe? Or am I just believing it because it's some sort of construct that's been ingrained in? Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I'm so proud of you.
Yeah.
Good for you. And how is he um how is he not accommodating? How is he with that? Because that's different. That's a shift, I would think.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
I'm like,
As your
mm,
children grow.
yeah, it's been interesting. Like that one the other night with the tube top, we got a little
Uh-huh.
bit, he got a little bit defensive and we got in a little bit of a beef about it. But I
Uh-huh.
was like, no, I'm not attacking you. Like, I'm not attacking you. Like, you were the one that was wrong, like, whatever. But I want to have these conversations. Like, I want to open up of like, why do we say that? Like, why? And I've had these conversations and he kind of just sits back and listens. Like, I'm a talker. He's not. So I talk a lot and then he listens a lot. And he's like, but we had a conversation. I'm like, no, we didn't.
Right.
It was a one-sided conversation. but but I've had the same conversation around like how are we going to raise our daughter like around sex? Like, what is the conversation there? Because what we grew up with was what we were conditioned into and told. Is that really what we want to condition and carry forward for her, or do we want to do something different? Like, what do we want to do around finances, or how we like, what are the things? Like, can we just, I guess it's this like intentionality. Like, can we be present with why were we conditioned this? Why were we told this? And make a conscious choice going forward. He kind of sits back and takes it in and listens to it. I think it permeates through, but like I said, he tends to be the listener. I tend to be the talker, but it's this constant reminder for both of us of like deconstructing how we were taught and raised and just asking questions. I think asking questions is one of the greatest things that we can do as human beings. And it's what makes change, right? Like, I work in healthcare and asking questions is what promotes change, like in
Mhm.
healthcare. It's what promotes change in just, we've always done it this way. Like, it
Right.
asking questions from a really curious point of view, not asking it from a condescending or, belittling sort of way, but asking questions in a curious way is the way you change your business. It's the way you get out of limiting beliefs. It's the way that you transform future generations. It's the way, like, all of it. Like, how can we, even right now with a teenager, good gracious, like the words and the language that they have right now. I don't know if you know much about it, but there's like
Oh,
6-7 and Skibbity
yeah.
Rizzler, Ohio, and like all of these things. It's like, how do we even just get really curious about
Mhm.
what's happening in their world? Because the generation that's coming up right now is going to deal with things far beyond what we ever had to deal with.
Yes.
And the things that they have to learn and the emotional skills and the tools and stuff like that that they need to acquire
Yeah.
is going to be beyond what any of us have ever done. And so rather than trying to squash what they have, it's like, how can I get really curious about learning about the way they are and what they need and what they're going to, and like, how do I lean into that? So I think just questioning, questioning,
That
questioning.
is so good. That how do I get curious? Because the quality of those questions determines the
Mm-hmm.
quality of your outcome.
Yes,
If you're
100%.
saying, well, why can't I just, your body, you're going to answer however you phrase that question. Well, it's because I'm
Totally.
stupid. That's why. And
Yeah.
that's the end of that. But how
Mm-hmm.
can I get curious? I get curious about why I think takes
Mm-hmm.
you to a whole different place.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
when you're, and I'm assuming, I've just assumed
Mm-hmm.
something about you, that
Yeah,
you coach with questions a lot, with
I
that,
try to.
to think, to think
Yeah.
differently, even
Yeah.
though,
Yeah.
because until they discover it for themselves, it's not real anyway. The only story that matters is the one we tell
Mm-hmm.
ourselves. And so they have to question their own storyline and
Mm-hmm.
find their own solutions. And when they do, you're there for the aha moment.
Mm-hmm.
Say there, and here's the tool for that.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think that that's also like the sign of a really great coach. And there's been a couple of my clients have called me out. They're like, you're advice giving right now. And I'm like, I know, sorry.
I know, right? There you
I'll
go.
go back to asking
It
questions.
happens.
But that is like the best kind of coaching that you'll ever find is the coaches that aren't giving you play by play. They're not giving you rote instructions. They're asking the questions that are eliciting the response from you. And
Mhm.
I look at it, I love working with leaders, innovators, and creators.
Okay.
And leaders and innovators and creators aren't doing play by play, rote by rote, what everybody else has done. They're on the forefront. They're creating the change. They're doing new things. They're testing new things. And
Mhm.
so inherently in that, like I can't hand somebody a play by play roadmap most of the time. Like there's certain things I can, but for the most part, that's not what I'm doing. I'm helping elicit the change and the innovation and the leadership out of somebody else that's never been seen before. And I think that that's a really valuable piece to
Right.
look at too. If you're looking for coaches or looking to hire,
Yeah.
looking for somebody to support you, is like, how do they move people through? Like, what is it that they do and what are they teaching and how are they teaching it? Because
Uh-huh.
that's going to make a big difference. I've gone down, I'm sure you have too. Like, I've gone down the rabbit hole of
Oh,
like, just tell me exactly what I need to do and I
oh,
will
I know.
do it.
Oh, and I've done it. And I've
Yeah.
ended up with a cookie cutter approach to a cookie cutter problem that did not connect with any of my ideal
100%.
clients. Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
Yep. 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 I think we all learned that lesson.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
So if people want to work with you, innovators and
Mhm.
creators and in this
Yeah.
audience, how do they find you? Where they get you? Didn't you write a book?
I did write a book.
Okay.
Yeah. So I actually give the book away for free for people that pay for shipping and handling as long as you're in the United States. So you can just go to reneefieck.com/free book and get
Mhm.
a free copy of that. If you're not in the United States, you can send me a message. I'll send you a link to the audiobook instead. Um, Otherwise, I love hanging out on Instagram. That's my favorite place to hang out. I'm on all the platforms and everywhere, but Instagram is definitely the place you'll find me the most. So that would be the great place
Okay.
to check in. Yeah.
You're a creative person.
Yeah.
That makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
So we are approaching 2026. We are shifting one voice evolving into one collective voice evolving because we're
Mhm.
on episode 75, I think
Yeah.
now. And it's better you, better world
Mhm.
because when we shift inside, the ripple effect in the world, our immediate world, our communities, our organizations, and out happens.
Yeah.
So is there anything that you'd like to add to that or anything you wanted to share that maybe we didn't touch on
Mm.
this time?
No, I mean, I would just say, like, I mean, in that theme, like, of what you're talking about, I think we underestimate the power that we have as
Mm.
just like one person sometimes, but we never know, like, that butterfly effect of like what our one change is going to do. And I, I was talking with my clients yesterday about this idea of like, if you had somebody that was drowning, would you think twice about jumping in and saving them?
Right.
Most of us wouldn't, right? And yet
Mhm.
so many of us hold back
Mhm.
on change or taking that leap or doing the thing that we want to do or knowing what we want to do because we're worried about what everybody else is going to think about us,
Yeah.
what our own fears and limiting beliefs. But if we flip that vision and think, wow, what if I could save this one person? What if I could help this one person? And we flip it and put it out on the other people, that's when everything changes. So don't underestimate the power that you actually have in creating ripples and changes in the world. Just flip the lens. Like instead of looking back at yourself, look out at what you're doing and what you're creating. And it makes it so much easier. Yeah.
Wonderful. Renee, you've been an
Yeah.
awesome guest. It has been a pleasure to introduce you to the audience.
Thank
And
you.
I hope to see more of you. I'm going to go look up your book as soon as we
Yeah.
hang up.
Thank you so much.